And welcome to Around the Ozarks Spotlight. Each week we uncover the stories behind the people who live and work in Southwest Missouri. Those individuals with entrepreneurial spirit who work to better the lives of others or put pen to paper to write books about the stories and history of the Ozarks and its people. I'm your host, Scott Meier. Today we're going to explore the world of solving insecure food situations and with the efforts of Arvest Banks here locally, the Million Meals program. And with me is Executive Vice President of Arvest, Penny Lacy. Hi, Penny.
Good morning, Scott.
You realize how many times I went through my mind of not calling you Penny Lane because
Oh,
I am a bit of a Beatles fan, and I'm sure I'm not the first person that ever said that to you.
gotten that a couple times.
Well, let's quickly, before we get into the great work that Arvest Banks is doing and as part of the Million Meals program, let's tell the folks who Penny Lacy is. Who's Penny Lacy?
Yeah. Well, I am a Missouri girl. I've lived in the Springfield Republic area for many years, spent a while in Northwest Arkansas, but have been back in Springfield for many years now. Love the area and love the communities here that we live in.
Which high school?
Republic.
Oh, Republic. Okay, and
Yeah.
then on to four-year college somewhere.
I actually did not. I did take some courses at MSU. At that time, that's what it was called. And then just a lot of on-the-job training and
Okay.
different courses along the way.
So at heart, you're a banker,
I'm a banker.
and that's a good
I'm a
thing.
banker.
We like
Yeah.
that. So we, on April 3rd, a few days back, kicked off something called Million Meals. Let's talk about that. What is Arvest's why as they're involved in Million Meals?
Yeah, that's a great question and an easy one. Food insecurity is so prominent among all of our communities that we serve in Arvest. We're in 4 states, so Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Kansas. And some of those rank pretty high in food insecurity, and especially right here in Southwest Missouri. So it's important to us to give back to communities. And that's just such a basic need for everyone to have. And it's something we really are dedicated to try to do as much as we can to help with those food insecurities.
Well, let's dig down on that a little bit, Penny, if we can. The food insecurity is obviously the issue, but exactly what does Arvest do with Million Meals that helps to try to secure a better future going forward for people that are food insecure?
Well, we definitely put a lot of emphasis on raising funds for our local food banks, and that's really what it's all about.
Hmm.
So we try to partner with them. We've done things in the past as far as food drives, bringing in cans and things like that, but we've learned that it's actually the dollar. If we can get that in the hands of our local food banks, they can do so much more with those funds than we can individually. So we do a lot of fundraising throughout the community within our branches,
Hmm.
just to raise as much as we can to give to our local partners. And the good thing is everything we raise stays right here local to our areas that we serve.
You're hearing my guest today, Penny Lacy. Penny is the Executive Vice President, Sales Manager for Arvest Banks. Is that Arvest Banks here in Springfield or across the region, or how far out
Um,
does that spread?
Yeah, here in Springfield, so we touch 7 different markets. So the metro area of Springfield, Nixa, Aurora, Branson, Hollister, Branson West, Marshfield, and Lebanon. So that's under the umbrella of Arvest Springfield.
So you're a
And
very busy person. You've got a lot
yeah,
going on.
yeah.
Now, with as many branches, and how many branches are there of Arvest in just in Metro Springfield?
In Springfield, we have 5.
Okay, so each branch takes on this role as fundraiser as well.
Yeah, yeah. Every location will brainstorm, and we try to make it fun for our associates. And we've had such success of them getting behind this cause. We've had things of where they've involved our customers with bake sales,
Hmm.
with voting for the funniest baby picture or things like that. So they just come up with some great ideas, different every year, and do it locally in their branches to contribute to the efforts.
Now, this is the 13th year for
Yeah.
Million Meals. What kicked it off? Who gets all the credit for that, or is it simply just something the bank, as the bank, said this is something we want to do?
Well, I'm not positive where it originated, other than probably one of our executives' leadership probably said this is something we definitely want to get behind, and then just put it out to all of the markets, and everyone got on board. So I don't know if it was a genius marketing person who said, "Hey, this is a way we can really make an impact."
Hmm.
That would be my guess, but something certainly it's easy for all of us to say we want to help.
Well, I like you using the word genius for marketing people. I
Yeah,
think that's a great line.
yeah.
So this it kicked off on April 3rd. Unfortunately, our warm weather hasn't kicked off so well on April 3rd.
No,
But,
it
but going
hasn't.
forward, how long is this going to be in effect? How long are we
Yeah.
raising funds?
Well, we raise funds through May 27th.
Okay.
So about a 2-month period that we commit to this.
And the name
Um,
million, anytime millions associated with anything, is that the goal? $1 million, or is it just a million meals, or what?
Million meals.
A million meals. Okay.
Yeah, a
So,
million meals.
what does that look like in real dollars and cents, if that's a fair question?
Well, I think that is a fair question, and I know I have that information. So every dollar donated provides the equivalent of up to 5 meals. So, and again, it goes back to what I said. Our partners
Hmm.
in the food pantries, they're able to take that dollar and do. They have much better buying power than we would just by bringing in cans of food or things like that. Those things are helpful and welcome, obviously,
Sure.
but the dollars can they can put those to much better use.
Do the Arvest branches ever get involved directly with the food pantries so they can get a little sense of the folks coming in?
Yeah, we have volunteers. We're very much supportive of our team getting the opportunity to go out and actually get hands-on with several of the organizations that we work with. So we have a group that goes out to the food Ozarks Food Harvest, and
Hmm.
they help pack boxes, unload, do whatever they need us to do. And same in Branson and some of our other communities as well.
Now, Penny, you've been involved as the executive VP there for how long?
I have been in this position. I'm kind of a newbie still since July of last year. Now, not a newbie to Arvest. I'm
Sure.
coming up next week on 29 years with the company, but local here to Springfield in this role, it'll be a year in July.
Well, this is where you do the drum roll, and I say you started at the bank when you were 5. So
Right.
that, congratulations.
Almost.
But isn't this really the difference between community banks and the great big banks? I mean, we're hearing a lot about banks these
Yep,
days in the news, good and bad.
absolutely.
But
Yeah.
community banks really do mean community, don't they?
Absolutely. And as I just said, I've been with Arvest a long time. And that was one of the very first things when I started my career, even is, encouragement to volunteer, encouragement to get out and participate in the community.
Hmm.
And that is a difference. And we're definitely committed to being out and present with everything we do. So volunteers, raising money, any way we can help.
You're hearing Penny Lacy. Penny's my guest today on Around the Ozark Spotlight. The spotlight being, in this case, on a million meals or million meals. And Penny's the executive vice president at Arvest here in Springfield. It's incredible. Have you had a chance, or could you share a story of a family maybe that you've heard about or known about that was receiving some of the gifts of food, if you will?
Yeah, it'll probably be a little bit general, but I've heard several
Hmm.
stories about how we have impacted customers, families in our communities. I think of one out of our Lebanon area, and just that team there is pretty special. They usually go just above and beyond, but just a family that was in need, and they're able to, encourage them um, through the work that we do to the food pantries, but then our team actually went out and did other things for this particular family and
Sure.
brought in different items for them as well. So I don't know if that kind of falls in line,
Well,
but
I
that's
think
what
it's
comes
always
to
nice to
mind
put a
for me.
face on it. You know,
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's such a giving area. You know, there's over
yeah.
3,500 different organizations just in metropolitan Springfield that raise
Mhm.
money for different things,
Yeah,
and you don't find that a lot of other places. And the fact that the bank can get behind this, and all of the employees of the bank
yeah,
can really feel it. I can't think of anything really that would be more, and embarrassing is not the right word, but it's got to come into play a little bit for when a family has to go to a food bank because they're food insecure at home. It's
yeah.
got to be terribly difficult for them.
Yeah, I can't imagine, but the stories that you hear are definitely heart-wrenching. Again, it goes back to that is a primary need that we all have. And yeah, you're right. It would be very humbling not to be able to meet that need for your family.
Better word. That's why you're a
Yeah,
EVP. You've got better words. I appreciate that. Let's tell the folks that are listening and watching
yeah.
what's the best way they can get involved.
Well, I would say if you're an Arvest customer, even if you're not, you can go to a local Arvest and make a contribution.
Hmm.
Or if you are an Arvest customer, you can go out on your Arvest Mobile Go app and make it really easy to make a contribution there. But I would say one way or another. Contribute to Arvest as we're collecting for this, or I mean directly to your food bank that you have a heart for in your community. We're very passionate about reaching our goal, and I think we will. We've been very successful with that, but I would
Hmm.
just say just contribute anything that you can because it all makes a difference. And again, just that $1, 5 meals. So think of it that way too, because that dollar can be stretched.
Oh,
Um,
it really makes a difference when you go through a program. There's no
yeah,
question. We do that. We do that all the time with the homeless. You know, I work in a group that supports the homeless folks, and giving them money on the street, not a good thing. Giving
no,
money to the organization called One Door, you know, it handles almost
yeah,
everything, and it goes so much further. So those words, really heed those words, that the dollars given to you can go so much further than they can if somebody's trying to
absolutely.
do it themselves. Are you seeing food insecurity? Is that a rural thing or is that a city thing?
From everything that I've read and what we hear from our partners, it's not just rural. It is even within the city. So I think it's just very far-reaching, and no one's really immune to it. In any kind of area, you'll always find someone in every community that has that food insecurity.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It
It's
really is.
in a
It really
day
is.
when you know even the public schools are feeding kids breakfast and lunch, you're
Yeah.
still not sure if they're going to have dinner or weekend meals.
Right. And that's you hit on something there, Scott. We target spring, so going into April and May, because our local pantries have told us that that's when they have the biggest need going into the summer,
Hmm.
because you've got such a population of school age children that they aren't in programs through the summer, and that's really when they have a big need is trying to get food out to families during
Sure.
that time.
It
So
breaks your heart. So
it does.
it's almost like some other things, like even raising funds for cancer. Everybody
Yeah,
probably knows somebody who's been
absolutely.
touched with food insecurity. So
Yeah,
let's try to get over to your Arvest offices as quickly as we can. Get
yeah.
some money to you folks. I'm sure if somebody handed you a fistful right now, you would take it and put it in a bucket.
Absolutely. And I would like to tell you, we do have some fundraisers coming up. If I could tell you about those
Yes,
real quick.
absolutely.
So we partnered with 4x4 Brewery. There's one in Springfield and one towards Nixa. So we've got an event. Actually, tonight is one of our first fundraising events, and it's here at the 4x4 in Springfield. And we also are partnering with Big Shots Golf. And so we have some. A fundraiser plan for there. Don't have all the details with Big Shots yet,
Hmm.
but coming up. And then again, just those branch fundraisers at every Arvest branch. Our customers and folks coming in will see some fun things to do.
Well, we'll check back at the end and see if we hit the million meals mark.
All right. Appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. I want to thank my guest, Penny Lacy. Penny, the Executive Vice President, Sales Manager for Arvest Banks here in the Springfield area, and all of you for hearing her story today. We'll be right back in a moment with more on Around the Ozarks Spotlight. I'm your host, Scott Meier. We'll be right back.
Hey, everybody, it's Ethan and Sarah Forhetz from your favorite podcast, Around the Ozarks in 5. I'm sure you've been wondering, how can I get even more amazing stories, events, and witty banter to start my day?
Well, look no further. Here we are. Sign up for our daily newsletter. You'll have what's going on around the Ozarks right at your fingertips each weekday morning.
Yeah, just go to aroundtheozarks.com, click on the newsletter tab to sign up.
Thanks for listening to Around the Ozarks in 5. We hope to see you in your inbox soon.
And welcome back to today's Around the Ozarks Spotlight program. I'm your host, Scott Meier, and I'm joined now by Jennifer Cotner-Jones, who's the Executive Director of the Springfield Symphony Orchestra and new to Around the Ozarks Spotlight. I think it's your first time, is it not, Jennifer?
It is. I'm a rookie.
Thank you. Even though you became the Executive Director in 2019, why don't you give the folks that have a chance to hear us and view us a little bit of your background, why you became the Executive Director of the Springfield Symphony Orchestra?
Well, I've been in nonprofit for about 25 years now, and worked for a lot of national organizations that you know that that's kind of how we met. Oh no. And so I really wanted to work my way to being a part of a local organization. The arts are very important to me. Music's very important. So when the position opened up, I jumped at the opportunity and applied for it, and of course got the job. And it's been a wild ride the last 4 years.
Well, here's the good news. I mean, and if we've got enough time, we can share a little bit of the working through the pandemic stories.
Yeah.
But you came out at a time when the symphony is on the upswing in terms of revenue.
Yes.
And today, I mean, I don't expect you to go through the financials. That's not why we're here. But if you could share a little bit about how we came out of the other end of the pandemic and the exciting things that are happening right now at the orchestra.
Yeah. So when we started the pandemic, when it started in 2020, we were having a record year with the symphony. We were selling out performances, and we had beat budget goals by February of that year, and our season goes through May. So right now we are doing exceptionally well. Almost as well as we were that year. And so that's exciting because people are coming back to live performances. They're supporting the symphony. We've got an amazing upcoming performance in May. We just had an exceptional performance with the St. Louis Ballet that was sold out. So lots of good things that are coming. And we came out of this, I think, stronger and more equipped to handle things that might come our way, especially, financial challenges, which we didn't have a lot, but we had to make some changes, of course, as a lot of, businesses did have to do. So, yeah.
Well, what Juanita K Auditorium holds roughly what is it? 3,200? Is that
2,300?
2,300. Huh. I got to juxtapose. Shame on me. But 2,300. But we were one of, and I think you could almost count them on two hands or maybe even one hand, symphonies that actually performed during the pandemic.
Yeah. So we were very fortunate that we had a board that said we can do this, and we did. And we were one of 26% globally that played, and one of 16% that played in the United States.
But in front of a live audience.
In front of a live audience.
Right.
Because some of those people performed, but they performed virtually. So they saw their orchestra playing, but weren't playing to an audience, where we were playing to an audience. And we did it with a social distance seating chart in 2020 to 2021. The county said we could do it. It was 50% capacity. And that's what we did. And we had to add a matinee because we had such a great response from our season ticket holders that wanted to support the symphony. and wanted to come. So we added the matinee that year as well. So it was different, and we did it. And then the next year, 21, 22, we were back to normal seating. However, there were still a lot of restrictions and stuff like that were in place. So,
Well,
normal year.
It's phenomenal when you think about it. My guest who's joining me right now is Jennifer Cotner-Jones. Jennifer is the executive director of the Springfield Symphony Orchestra. We were traveling with some other people in South Texas in the winter, early spring of 2021. And interestingly enough, the San Antonio Symphony had a big write-up in one of their local magazines, and they were completely virtual. And, they were talking about the restrictions of not playing in front of a live audience and the feelings of the different players about how much they missed that, interacting with people. Yet here in little old Springfield, even though, people were sitting apart from one another, most, if not everybody, was masked up, I think, that first year and a half. And you even had players, right, that were wearing masks. We had special seating for the players. But with your direction, and that's where I'm going with this whole comment, with your direction and leadership, along with Kyle, who is the conductor, we're able to bring live music, live concerts to the people of Springfield, Missouri.
Yeah, and it was exciting. I mean, it was very nerve-wracking because we did get some backlash a little bit that we were doing that, from people, and that was expected. We did play with a reduced symphony. So normally we have around 60 players, and we did a reduced size. So we had around 30, and we had them 6 feet apart, which was, part of the suggestions with the Greene County Health Department. And we worked very closely with them. We had a handbook we created, player protocols, all the restrictions that were in place that were required. And so we just really worked to make sure that we could have live music. Now, we did get backlash. However, we got great feedback that people were so happy they had something to do, because a lot of people were not doing live performances, or they were doing them virtual, even locally. Hammond Hall, they did not have any Broadway shows that year. And so that first year when we had a social distance seating chart. So we were actually just one of very, very few that actually had live performances where people could come and, escape for a little while, a couple hours once a month. And we were glad to do that and provide that for the community and our season ticket holders. So, yeah.
Did we ever poll the players to find out how they felt, or did they make it known that they were excited to continue to play even during the shut-in, or the shutdown, rather?
They were excited to play because they also, with players, they're used to rehearsing every week. And, when we have a performance upcoming, even, a lot of them play in other orchestras as well and do a lot of other events, which those were all canceled too. They had plans to play in a wedding, and that was canceled because you couldn't have more than so many people. So it gave them an opportunity to play and a reason to rehearse. And they were doing a lot of stuff themselves within the orchestra. They'd pull together a quartet. There was one that 4 of our players did, and it was Guns N' Roses' Sweet Child of Mine. And that thing had so many views. It was crazy. But they were just glad to be back in rehearsal. We had to move to a new rehearsal space because of spacing. And we went to a ballroom at the DoubleTree because it was larger, and just to make sure that we had the, more space for the players. So yeah, they were happy to be playing. And Alexis, our operations manager, he did a really great job of making sure he rotated players around. So there wasn't just the same. We do have our principals and that type of thing, but just to make sure that other ones had an opportunity to play. So, there may have been different violinists playing one month, or different winds playing the next month. And the wind thing, that was a challenge with the brass and all of that. Because if you remember, they were talking about how the aerosols and stuff were going out. Yeah. So we had to make sure that we had them further away from everybody. And then they had covers on their.
You had covers on the French horns. I mean,
they had bell covers. And then they had, the spittoons next to them where they would
Mhm.
sit, and then the puppy pads all around them. So we did everything we could. And it was crazy. It was a great learning curve for everybody to figure out how to make something happen. And
It's amazing. There's so much music that we take for granted in Southwest Missouri. Really, when you come to think of all the genres of music that originate out of here, and the big acts that have come out of this area as well. But the symphony has gone a step further, and both you and Kyle are to get a tip of the hat. Alexis, obviously, as well, because he has to pull all this stuff together. But to perform with the Ozark Mountain Daredevils, let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, it's one of the only symphonies, not only in the country but in the world, that has had a chance to play with a rock group in an orchestral setting, and we had sold out shows.
Yeah, and we started talking about that in 2020. And that was going to be, set, and we had the date set, and then COVID came, and then we had it rescheduled again, and then there was a COVID spike, so we moved it again, and it actually worked out better because it coincided with the Hall's anniversary, Hammond Hall's 30th anniversary. So it was a unique collaboration between the two groups, the symphony and the Daredevils. We didn't know how it was going to go. No clue, because it had never happened,
Sure.
And the Daredevils are very talented, and they put together the
arrangements
and everything like that. They put all that together, and so that was fun because they never knew how it was going to sound once they put it with the Daredevils. So rehearsals, happened, but it was just a great collaboration, and we did so well when we did the pre-sale that we added the second show on that Sunday, which that one was almost sold out as well. So, but look for good things to come with that collaboration this year.
Sure. Well, that's what's exciting. And I know after or before that we were able to make this conversation and recording, we just had a program, and I say we because I've been on the board for a number of years, and I really appreciate that. But the Springfield Symphony Orchestra had more programs this year where you've had play acting live on stage, and the orchestra, following up with the music for that. There's been film that's been orchestrated with the symphony. But we just finished with the St. Louis Ballet.
Yes.
Let's talk about that a little bit. How did that come about?
So Kyle's very creative, and I appreciate that about him because, you can have, classical pieces play, but then you want to make sure that you're bringing in arts that come together, that kind of work together. And so he came to the board last year and said he wanted to do a collaboration with the St. Louis Ballet, Swan Lake, and that was approved, and we decided to do that. And it was a daunting task to make that happen. And we had 50 of the ballet come from St. Louis, and our players, and there was a lot of Alexis again. I'm going to go back to Alexis. Poor Alexis. He had to cut the music because they arranged it differently, because the story is told in different ways sometimes. And so he was like cutting it out and copy and pasting to make it all flow. It was kind of crazy. And then Kyle, I don't know if you saw that Facebook post that he made.
No.
But so they weren't in order. Like the sheets of music were out of order, but they were in the order they were going to play them. So he went to go have his score bound. He was in Topeka at the FedEx store, and he dropped it off and came back, and the lady there had it all spread out. And Kyle was like, and he's better at telling the story, but he was like, "What are you doing?" And she was like, "Well, it was all out of order." And he was like, "No, it wasn't." She goes, "Yeah, the page numbers were wrong." So it was like 300 pages that
oh my God.
back and redo it all after he'd already put them in order. So it was a very challenging performance to put together, but
you guys were able to pull it off. So
and then they're doing the same performance up in St. Louis this upcoming weekend. So they'll do 4 performances up there, Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, and Sunday. So
Now,
yeah.
we only have about 30 seconds left. Let's quickly take a walk through what's happening in May.
Oh, we have another collaboration with arts organizations, which would be the Spires family. So if you're not familiar with them, they're a big opera local family from Mansfield. Michael just got knighted, so he's now Sir Michael Spires, and
Wow.
his brother Sean, who's an amazing singer of his own right. Michael's wife Tara, who's from Rogersville, her voice is amazing. And then we have Sister Erica, who's a Broadway star. So we have that whole family coming together to do some beautiful pieces, Broadway pieces, some arias with that whole family. So that will be one you definitely don't want to miss because it will be entertaining as well.
And tickets are available where?
They are available at hammondshall.com or Missouri State Tix. We encourage everybody to buy their tickets from that site or call Hammond's Hall 417-836-7678.
I want to thank my guests today on Around the Ozark Spotlight, also my producers Taylor Worley and Jay Stevens, as well as all of you for joining us. If you happen to miss all or part of today's program, you can always find it in its entirety on the MidwestFamilySpringfield.com website, AroundTheOzarks.com site, the Around the Ozarks app. You can find it at Spotify. You can find it at Apple iTunes. So you can find it almost anywhere. And you can hear and view today's show as well as all the earlier shows from this year and last year. I'm Scott Meier, your host. And remember that every day is a gift. Enjoy life. Thanks again, Jennifer.
Thanks.